let's shut that off. Get rid of that. Leave that. Get rid of that. Switch to that. And say hello. What's up? It is Writer Radio. It's episode 248. And I didn't see it. And I wasn't going to compete with that. That was starting. It started 2 minutes before the show was going to start. And there's no way I was going to have that going on while I'm off doing something completely different from that. And then I thought, ooh, here's the thing I used to do called the truth detector. It started with Greg Williams. And it stemmed from feeling like I was being lied to at press conferences. It was, part of it was just coach speak, just standard, not answering questions and kind of, people call it word salad. I've never done that before, but I'm going to use word salad. It was just, there was a disingenuous vibe to everything that came out of the mouth of Greg Williams. He was the head coach of the Bills for 3 years. I was on the radio at the time. And I started listening to these press conferences, and I wanted to jump in on them. I was doing a show at night at the time, and we would, he would speak once a week or maybe even twice a week. There'd be like the post-game one, but there was a midweek Tuesday or what? Tuesday. Tuesday was press conference day. And he would do that, and then on Tuesday nights, we'd go through with the recorded version of the press conference. And then I liked my previous chime better, but I had a ding. It was more of a ding, like a correct ding. Now I have this. I don't like it as much. I haven't found the right one. The buzzer is the same. Although I had to fade it. I've never gotten the perfect sound. Anyway, knowing that this news conference was going to happen, my thought was, I'm going full truth detector here. But again, one-man show, a lot of stuff to do. I wanted to make sure you could hear it and see it, and I wanted to make sure I heard it and saw it so that I could process it and comment on it. And now I've got notes on just what we just heard and saw, and I got some thoughts. So we're going to do that. It's Writer Radio episode 248. We didn't do the open. We didn't do any of this stuff. Should I do the open? Should I put the open right in the middle of the thing? Maybe. All right, let's see. So we would do the countdown. Yeah, let's do that. It'll feel more official if I start the show like that. We'll just call this something that preempted Writer Radio, even though I had my face in the corner and I was typing little messages here and there. But I don't feel comfortable. I feel like I haven't started the show. I've just jumped right in, and I'm uncomfortable with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the countdown thing and then the open, and then I'm going to pretend it's a brand new show. How about that? I missed the open. I like Kermit. Makes me feel good. Hip, hop, David, the Swedish Chef. Come on. All right, so if I hit that, then I hit this.
Writer Radio is a BKR Media production.
Welcome to the morning meeting, everybody. Or should I say the whenever you decide to show up meeting?
I said the hip, hop, the hippie, the hippie, the hip, hip, hop, the don't stop, the rocket to the bang, bang, boogie, say up, up, the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat. Now what the hell is to the twist, the ripping to the beat. Every hit the groove, and my friends are gonna try to move your feet. Say I am on the move, and I'd like to say hello. I to the left, to the right, the red, and the blue, the purple, and yellow. But first I gotta bang, bang, the boogie to the boogie, say up, the boogie to the bang, bang, bang.
That feels better. That feels better. It feels more like the real show. All right. It's Writer Radio, episode 248. I don't know if this means we'll go long, but we are just starting here. And I had things that I wanted to do. We're going to hear from Bob Gaughan at some point between now and whenever we wrap things up. I'm supposed to have Bob at 11, but it doesn't seem to make sense to have Bob at 11 when I've got all this stuff that I want to talk about now, and then we'll get to Bob after that. Is that acceptable to everyone? Are we cool? All right. Takeaways from that, and feel free to use the chat here because that's the way that you can contribute to the show. Otherwise, it's just me. I have to get through all this stuff I wrote down because there were so many things where I wanted to jump in. And that was the other thing, too. And somebody said, thank you for not using the buzzer. I used it once or twice. I had to. But the other way to do it was to, like, pause. Because that's what I used to do when I would do the truth detector thing. There'd be a 19-minute Greg Williams news conference, and we'd play it, but I'd have a producer, and he'd hit the yes and no, ding, buzz, whatever. And then I'd be like, oh, hold on, stop. And then I'd have him rewind it. Like, wait, I want to hear that part again. I was tempted to do that, but I was afraid that the technology would fail and then the whole thing would melt down. So I just let it play and saved my thoughts for afterward, aside from a few that I typed in. Most notably, this is why we only hear from Terry Pegula about once a year. It does not go well when he is off script. Does it sound familiar? He feels the need to jump in to save Brandon Beane. Brandon Beane does just fine in news conferences. He's excellent at it. He's got the politics of this position down fully. He also, I know we have to pick sides here, it seems, lately. He's done a really good job. This team, the sustained excellence of this team is unlike, I was going to say anything we've ever seen. Unlike anything we've seen in a long time here. And honestly, I would say that this 8-year run, certainly 9-year run, this 9-year run with 7 consecutive playoff seasons, I'd put it up there with what happened in the 90s. I know it's not the same. They haven't been to a Super Bowl. But also losing a bunch of Super Bowls kind of, put some wear and tear on our community and on our fandom and on our brains. I mean, is my beard this gray if they win one of those? If they just win the first one, they just make the field goal? Do I look like this? Do we all feel like this? I don't know. So as much as those are the glory years, these are also glory years. Didn't win a Super Bowl then, haven't won a Super Bowl now. This is comparable. But this is Bill Polian or John Butler, I guess, probably at that point, just firing Marv Levy because because Josh Allen didn't look at him in the locker room or something. Here are the things I heard that I don't believe. Let's put it that way. I want to take people at their word. I want to trust them. I didn't believe a lot of what Pegula said. And then there were moments where Pegula thought, hey, I'm going to jump in and save my guy Brandon Beane over here. Beane, no, I didn't believe every word. But I don't feel like he lied. I feel like he's really just a good speaker. He gets asked a question. This is an uncomfortable situation. And he gets asked a question, and he is clearly either very well trained or just very good at it. He's good at deflecting and answering and giving you a thoughtful answer. Like, you asked me this question. I'm certainly not answering that one. But I will give you something that's true that kind of sort of fits in. It's the, if you have good media training, it's like you get asked a question you don't want to be asked, answer the one you wish you were asked and go from there. And I thought there was a lot of that from Beane. I think there always has been. I think he's a good, from like a business standpoint, I like him as the leader of the football thing. But, okay, the football thing. Here's what happened there. Here's what happened in my brain there. I like him as the director of football operations. I don't know that I necessarily mean exactly that, because I've got some questions about the promotion as well. There was, I think, one question in that whole 43 or 45-minute press conference, 48-minute, about the promotion. And I thought that was unusual. Finally, somebody asked about it, but Beane is asked something about, will you hire a GM now that you're the director of football operations or president of football, whatever the title is? And he's like, no, I'm the GM. And then he says, it's not really different. Like, okay, so there wasn't a power struggle and you got promoted but it's not any different. That's hard to process. That's hard to, what's the other word? Believe. That's actually impossible to believe. The head coach is out. You're still here. You've been promoted. You'll pick the next head coach, or you'll lead the charge to pick the next head coach. But nothing has changed. That's just weird to me. There's something changed. The question to me, like that was the moment in the press conference where it's good that I'm not in the room, I think, or maybe it's bad, but that's where I would blow it up with something's changed. What has changed? It's like, oh, I just get more money now, or I have more power, or so-and-so can't tell me what to do. Something changed. So that's how I have a list of the bottom half of this sheet right here is things I don't believe. The first one I wrote was not a power struggle. Okay. To me, there are three key elements to this team, and this is not to downplay the importance of Dion Dawkins means a lot to the team. Dawson Knox means a lot to there's a lot of players that mean a lot to the team. But when you think of the Bills, it's the quarterback, it's the coach, it's the GM. If you agree, and I do, like I get the sense, if I believed Pagula that it was playoff wall, something's got to change, then I think I'd be all right with it, because it was only in the last 2 weeks, week and a half, where I first thought, hey, maybe not McDermott. I know a lot of people have been on him over the course of his tenure here, but he's run a tight ship. He's clearly a good dude that people like. There's no debating that. No, I don't know him, but perception-wise, I haven't heard a person say a bad thing about him ever. Even the people who fired him don't have anything bad to say about him, except that like maybe he was more interested in Keon Coleman being on the team. The coaching staff was more interested in Coleman being on the team than Beane was. And he's like, no, it falls on me. I did it. I made the pick. But then it makes sense too that you're running an organization together, and you've got a common goal, and that's win every game and win the Super Bowl. So it would make sense that you're going to have disagreements, and sometimes you're going to side with this guy, and sometimes you're going to take, even if Beane is the only person in charge of the draft, sometimes you're going to go, all right, you made a compelling argument. I don't have a strong enough one to tell you that you're wrong, so let's go with your idea here. How it is that they successfully both detached themselves from Keon Coleman. It's not like he's Aaron Hernandez. It just hasn't quite been very good. He's not a total disaster. He just hasn't been super helpful in a passing game where the quarterback was the MVP last year and did it pretty much without him there, and then did what he did this year pretty much without him. Like I said, they're still citing the 100-yard game against Baltimore. Like, oh, here we go. No, it was not here we go. It was a good game. It was helpful. It was fun. But, all right, so not a power struggle. And Terry did say power play. He said he's against, if anybody's pulling a power play, they're out of here, which eliminates the Sabres every night. How'd that game finish last night? It was 4-0 last I saw. I'm going to assume, since they're not the recent Sabres, that they came out on top. I have to check on that. Sorry. NHL scores. Buffalo. How'd we do? 5-3. Okay. Yeah, it was 4-0 and 4-2. And I don't know if it went 4-3. That sounds like an empty net type of situation. You guys, who cares, right? They won. Another win. I'm going to look at the standings, too. This is at my break from the Bills and the sadness and weirdness and all the stuff that's going on over there. Sad's not right. I'm okay with it. I feel bad for McDermott. Watch the farewell video. It's hard. I mean, he's a likable dude. Seemed like a really nice guy. But something had to change. I get it. All right, 5-3 win. That's not what I want. I want standings. NHL. There you are. Standings. After 2 straight losses, the Sabres bounce back. And, let's see, they're going to be right on the borderline. They always are right on the borderline. Got to go to the wild card standings. Some of you might already know this, but I need to know it myself. Currently in. All right. Ooh. Currently 3 points up on the first team out, which is the Leafs. So the Sabres are actually the first wild card right now. 27, 17, and 5, 59 points. 7 points back of the top spot in the conference, which is also the top spot in the division. All right. All right, Sabres. All right, back to the Bills. Things I didn't believe. Nothing has changed with the promotion while also stating I'm the GM. So you remain the GM, but also you're in charge of yourself. But nothing has changed. The coach is gone. You got promoted. Nothing has changed. So that's kind of what I mean about Beane. He misdirected the question about are you hiring a GM, spun it around to the point where nobody went, wait. Did you say you got a promotion but nothing has changed? Because I'd like to understand that. And Terry, as the guy who writes the checks, or signs the checks, I guess is the way you put it, right? As the guy who signs the checks, are you okay with him, who you just promoted, saying that nothing has changed? Because if nothing has changed, you're getting ripped off. There's just something super weird there. Didn't like that. And then the other one that he repeated it. You know, when like your kid, I'm gonna go like full Brady Bunch here. Like your kid didn't break the vase and didn't break the vase and just keeps telling you how much he didn't break the vase. You're like, well, he definitely broke the vase, right? I decided after the Denver game. After the Denver game, he just kept repeating it as if, and this one. This is just me speculating, but I would think if I'm the Bills or the PSE, whatever, the organization overall, and once in a while we let Terry out of a cage to go speak, and it's not just a prepared statement. Terry taking questions is like, oh boy, like how's your day at work, director of communications or whatever it is for the Bills. Like, okay, it's a wild card. We're going to put him out there, and we have to train him on what to say and what not to say. He stressed the word after the Denver game, or the phrase after the Denver game, after the loss, after the playoff loss, in the locker room, after. He stressed it so much that it sounded to me like he was coached up on that being a main talking point. Make sure you say after the game. And he would jump in, like Beane would be asked a question, and he'd just be like, after the game. After. Don't forget after. Remember we talked about this in the car. After. It was after. I don't believe it was after. There's no way it was after. And then there was a kind of sort of follow-up going, so what you're saying is if they won, and then they won again, he'd be the coach? You weren't going to fire him? And he's like, I don't want to speculate. Now, there's a way to answer that if you're being genuine. And then there's the way that Terry Pagula answered it. The way to answer it, if being genuine, is if they won, he'd still be the coach right now. And if they lost, and I went in the locker room and I got that same exact feeling again, then I probably would have made the same decision again. But it's impossible to speculate because we didn't get the opportunity to see that extra game. Like that's, if you really meant what you were saying, that's how you would say it. Because you would take in the thing, you would take in the question, you would process it, and then you would put the information back out. But instead, he took in the information, processed it by way of what was I trained to say? What am I supposed to say? Uh-oh, we didn't do this one. I was like, I'm not answering that. I don't know. It is what it is. He went to, it is what it is. It is what it is means you just asked a question that I don't have on my notes here. That to me was weird. And, this truth detector, in part, it was like a joke kind of machine. But in part, it's, I think I can read I've been doing this for a while. I've been listening to this stuff for a while. I can interpret the holes in what you're saying. Pretty good at that. And the more I think about it, the more of a red flag that was. because clearly he was stressing after Denver. It was after. We didn't talk about it. Forget about that 5 weeks ago meeting. We talk all the time. What does Vic Carucci know? How long has that guy been covering football? He's probably just making it up. And then, here's another one too. I don't even think I wrote this one down. No. Oh, I just lost it. Brandon Beane. Oh, it's a good one. It's a good one. Let me think. I'll get it back. This to do with Beane. Oh, power play, power struggle. And he immediately goes into, I will not have you question my character. It's like nobody questioned your character. Nobody questioned your character. That was, and this is again, Beane being good at deflecting from the question. But was there a power struggle? Of course there was a power struggle. They've been arguing back and forth about this and that in the media. The Darius Slay thing was, prominent. The phone call congratulations to our boy Jeremy White, who makes it into the season-ending coach just got fired press conference, and that is a talking point. Like, that was a moment. Not that he even did anything. He did a great job on the air, but it was just a scheduled interview, and Beane came in, and that was the first time he just seemed unraveled, disheveled. It's like, oh, this sounds like 2018. Like, what are you talking about, man? I've been up for an hour just talking on the radio about the draft, and I wanted a receiver, and you didn't get one. That's all. What's up? And he gets in. It was just this whole thing where I felt immediately, and it felt like he was talking to the coaching staff. He was talking to McDermott, not Jeremy. Jeremy didn't do anything, and Joe's there too. They didn't do anything. They were just doing a show, and then Beane comes in just all fired up. The thing when you're at work. It's a long day at work, and then people are cutting you off in traffic, and then, I don't know, something else happens, and you get home, and your kid's like, how's it going? You're like, what did the kid do to deserve that? Nothing. You're mad at your boss. You're mad at something that happened 6 hours ago, and you're taking it out on, in this case, Jeremy White, who's just trying to do a radio show. But the fact that is a defining moment of this season, because the receiver thing did prove to be an issue, of course. And whether you believed strongly that they needed to address it in the draft, or you thought that they adequately addressed it in free agency, or any of that, ultimately you get to the end, you're like, well, for a superstar quarterback, didn't really have much in the by way of wide receiver. And yeah, they the tight ends help, and you've got backs catching it out of the backfield, and the running game was strong, but there is a position you take up 5 to 7 spots on your roster with a position called wide receiver that is there specifically to catch the ball from the dude you're paying $70 million to throw it to him, or whatever the number is. I don't really care. It's massive. So it was an issue, and it came up, which, shout out to Jer, which is cool. Decided after the Denver. Those are the 3 things I had written down that I didn't believe. Not a power struggle. Nothing has changed, despite the fact that you've been promoted and still referring to yourself as GM, and then decided after the Denver game. I call BS for sure on that one. That was the lie that started the news conference. So, like, right from the start, like, first off, I want everybody to know, just thought of this Saturday. First time it's crossed my mind. There were no plans whatsoever. And if there were no plans whatsoever, how did a firing also turn into a promotion? Because the timeline doesn't make sense. I was like, did you go back and forth? This was late in it. Did you go back and forth? You decided in the locker room. And also, what was the thing? Josh didn't acknowledge me. Oh, Josh didn't acknowledge you after losing this playoff game, where I have a strong feeling he knew he had just not played his best, and that game had cost McDermott his job. And yeah, he didn't acknowledge you. That's weird. And that the timeline doesn't make sense. I think maybe he didn't acknowledge you because he was sad because of what had just happened and the consequences of it, because he knew. I find it impossible to believe that the decision to fire McDermott was not at least run through Josh. Whether he had a positive or negative reaction to it, you can't operate the franchise. I mean, you're talking about hiring the head coach, and like Josh will be involved. Like, of course he will. All right, I'm going to go to the chat. I'm still pulling for Keon. I like him, and he has potential. And I love his entertainment value at press conferences. I have that luxury because I'm not responsible for anything if he doesn't perform. Yeah, that's right. No, he is... I mean, I don't want to call him dumb. He comes across as dumb. Which ends up being fun when he's talking about the jackets and the sales at Macy's. It ends up being less interesting when it's just, oh no, they threw it to him and he didn't catch the ball again, which is what happens really a lot. You know, you want to think, all right, it's big body, and he's not been horrible. He's just not been a weapon. We're like, all right, today we're really going to lean on Keon Coleman. They haven't been able to do that yet. Maybe this offseason is the one where he turns into a superstar. It used to be that it was the third year for receivers. You had to wait till the third year to find out if you had anything in that receiver. Maybe he's one of those guys. All right, let's see what else is in this chat. There's a lot in the chat. Can I bring this up a little more? Oh, yeah, look at that. Perfect. All right. Let's go right from the start. I'm going to read through the whole chat, and then we'll go from there. Nice pivot, Brad. Good morning. Strongly consider... Oh, this is me talking. I said strongly consider going full truth detector, but I want to listen. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Can you imagine being this terrible at your job and getting a promotion? I don't think he's terrible at his job in any way. I think he's pretty good in his job. And I also think that of the GM, the coach, and the player, Josh, it was time to switch something with one of them. So I'm not that mad about the whole thing. I'm uncomfortable with some of the ways that it's being discussed. Can you imagine owning an NFL team and not being able to come up with a real reason to fire a coach? I kept putting on the screen, there's a reason Terry Pegula speaks like once a year. He flails. He's confident for no reason. It's bad. Couldn't help yourself, Brad. Yeah, I did hit the buzzer a couple times. Sorry. Bro, did he just say that he still has faith in Keon Coleman? We are screwed. You have to say that if you want to trade him. Maybe Sean was the one who wanted 7 receivers in the slot. Great tactic. Thanks for having this. Terry, you replace the person drafting players that don't make all pros or blow up the cap with middle to average players. I will give Beane a little credit in the press conference for saying the thing that isn't said often enough. There's the Bills roster before Josh Allen got paid, and then the one afterward. And it's not the same thing. They still have the ability to get, they're still in the market. Any good team that's got a good quarterback is paying a premium to have that guy on your roster, and very few of them have a guy who you would even allow into the same category / room as Allen. So, should we have spent less on quarterback? No. I mean, you gotta pay the market value for the guy. He's the team. He's the franchise. He's the community. We've got an economy based on this guy at this point. But he's right. That's what hurts about, let's say, the Patriots. If Drake May is the next one, they've got a couple years of not having to pay Drake May like he's the next one. And that hurts. The Bears, same thing. The Bears, now that the cap is worked out, or the rookie cap is worked out, he's picked first. He's slotted in here. You don't have to think about it, and that's where he is. And you've got him for 4 years. You got an option for the 5th. And that's the deal with, I'll say, Jaden Daniels, too. I know it's not trendy to talk about him right now, but at this time last year, it was, Jaden Daniels is here. He's the number one, or the next one. And now the next one is Caleb Williams. The next one is Drake May. But they're essentially free. So there is something to that. If you're going to pay the quarterback, you're going to lose some other things. Yeah, I made the decision in the locker room is not the answer I was hoping for. Well, that's the part where it just seems like a straight lie. Why was there... we'll get into that later. I'm going to bob on it a little bit. We'll talk. I wrote in and said somebody should text Keon and say, dude, they're talking about you a lot. Like, they must... I would think Brandon Beane must have loved any question about Keon Coleman because he could play it the way that he did. It's like, that wasn't my guy. He doesn't say it, but the implication is, there are certain places where you listen to the coaches instead of and then he comes back to be all virtuous. Ultimately, it's my decision. I'm the one that made the pick. I did it. But the implication is, I did it. I shouldn't have listened to those idiots. Not cool, but I get it. It's why he's good at this. He's good at the talking. Let's see. Oh, no, he just said Terry is deciding the head coach. I thought that changed. So this probably just means it's his final call. Every question about McDermott makes me think he's going to go win a Super Bowl somewhere. I don't know. I think he's going to go. He has proven that he is a builder. He can take your crap team and build it. Like, might he make sense in Vegas, for example? Culture's a disaster. Might he be the foundational piece to get that started? And he'd be coming in with a rookie quarterback, more than likely, with Mendoza. Oh, and they're faith-based. Oh, this makes so much sense. McDermott to Vegas, Fernando Mendoza to Vegas, and then you just got to keep Vegas away from the Raiders somehow. You can put the Raiders in Vegas, but then you have to protect them from Vegas. But McDermott might be the guy to do that. I don't hate that. I think that's a pretty good matchup. You get your young quarterback. He's one of these God guys. And then McDermott started here with Tyrod, and then they drafted Josh his second year. And it was 1 year of no playoffs and all playoffs since then. I think he is the prime candidate to fix the Raiders with Mendoza. That makes total sense. All right. I got that one first. Write that down. When that becomes like a thing, you heard it here first. Unless somebody else has been saying it too, and I just didn't pay attention. But I just thought of that. I think that's a very good connection. All right. Still pulling for Keon. I already did that. I hate all these contradictions, like no thought to firing, but immediate promotion. Yeah, right. How can Keon see the field again? Everyone in the slot is better. And the X? Yeah, we'll see. I mean, those guys aren't going to be on the team. That receiving core, Khalil Shakir will be back. And I don't know that anyone else on that in that receiver room returns. I'd have to look at contract status, but I mean, if you just look at the list of names, there's nobody else who's like, oh, he's definitely coming back. It might just totally get blown up. Start over. Sounds like Terry fired McDermott not because he thought a different option would be better. He fired McDermott because he didn't get it done, regardless of if the replacement would offer a better chance or not. Yeah, that scares me. I don't think that's the right move, Nick. And that drives me crazy. All right. See, we got that. We got it together. I like Vegas or Arizona would be great for my mom in Phoenix who loves McDermott. That's right. No, I think Vegas is the right fit. Like, where is McDermott? Like, you're not in Buffalo. You're just anywhere else in the league. I've seen a lot of things ranking the top job opportunities. And some debate on, like, is Buffalo or Baltimore the better job? And I don't know that either one of them is right, but you're just kind of looking at quarterback. And if we're looking at quarterback, then Buffalo is a better job than Baltimore. But what's the level of expectation? And they claim, is it Super Bowl or bust? Like, no. But you fired this guy because he couldn't get... Yeah. Okay. And it's true. I mean, you're not going to hire somebody and then they have the kind of year the Bills had this year. You know, go make the playoffs, win a playoff game, lose on the road, in overtime by 3, in a game where you got screwed. And, you know, you can say you got screwed, but there were a lot of things. Again, there's like a dozen plays. If you flip one of them, the Bills win. They're still playing. McDermott's still coaching. But a week from now, we're having this conversation. If they lose, at New England. I think. That's the impression I'm under. You weren't going to get a square answer out of Pagula there, but that's kind of the way I read it. All right, I'm going to take a timeout, and we'll be right back as we continue with episode 248 of Writer Radio. I will say the contact has been made with regard to cleaning up my dumb face and head. I texted the Buffalo Trim manager, who was my contact person, and it's either today, tomorrow, or Friday that we're getting this whole thing rearranged. We're going to fix it as much as we can. They're going to do a great job. It's up to me to strive to be more handsome. And I don't know that I've got it in me, but I will give it a full shot because I got to go on stage on Tuesday for Brain Vault. Tickets available at thecasbuffalo.com. So I recommend you grab some of those. I'm Brad. It's Writer Radio, episode 248. I'll be back. Bob Gaughan is going to join me maybe in a couple minutes, maybe in a little while. TBD. All right, stick around, and I shall return. All right, we're going to talk to Bob Gaughan. It'll be afternoon when I speak with him. So here's the deal. I hate it. It always happens. But Bob is unavailable this week to do the show live, right? So this is the kind of thing. You don't get this kind of insight. People don't reveal. I'm very I'm open and honest with what's going on. So Bob texts me every week and says, how about Wednesday at 11? We try for 11 o'clock each time. So it's Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday at 11. Scott Wilson's on Mondays and Fridays at 11. Bob has next pick. Scott's locked in. It's keeper league. Scott has kept 11 o'clock Mondays and Fridays. So then Bob has the first pick, and he just tells me what day is good for him. And he always says, "Is so and so okay?" And I always say, "Yes." How's Wednesday? It's fine. He gets the pick. But this week, for whatever reason, work schedule or whatever, he said, "Can we record something?" And I said, "Well, the only fear of recording something would be that there's like a massive development in the Bills situation." So this is, we're texting yesterday, and I said, he's like, "I don't think anything's going to happen in the next, 48 hours." I said, "Okay," and I agree. And it's still true. Like, nothing has happened. What I didn't know is that the Bills would have a news conference. So what you're going to hear, it would be crazy for me to right now just put on the segment. We recorded the segment yesterday for today. I wore the same shirt and hat so that I could trick you. I tried to trick you, but I cannot trick you because I have to tell you that the conversation we have will be completely ignoring the stuff that we did on the first 2 hours of the show. It's still a great conversation. Everything still holds true. It's all fine. But I even found myself already like trying to make reference to things that I know that we talked about yesterday that are just going to be on the thing. So I had to explain. And I just trying to be honest, man. Like, I could just try to pass it off as it's live, but Bob didn't hear the news conference. I guess I could have done that. Scott Wilson's calling. All right, let's hear what. I'm going to just hook up the phone. The phone's ringing. He knows I'm on the air, so this is not going to be a surprise to him that I answer live on the show. It's just Scott. Scott is here. Hold on, you can't talk yet. You're not allowed to talk.
Radio's senior football correspondent, Scott Wilson.
Hi, Scott. He's gone. Oh my God! I play the thing and he disappears. Well, we'll see if he calls back. What is this? Missed call, silent mode, missed call. We'll see. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe he didn't mean to call. But we're ready for him. Scott, if you're listening and you just tried to call, I'm willing to talk to you live on the air right now. I just tried to answer the phone and it didn't work. So if that happens again, we'll talk to Scott. See how distracting this can be? He probably just listened to everything that was said and wants to talk about it too. That's my guess. All right, I'm going to play it for real this time. Do it that way. And then I hit this.
Let's check in with Writer Radio's senior football correspondent, Scott Wilson.
Because he's live, but he knows that. He's a pro. Hi, Scott.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
I've been listening. I know you got Bob coming up. I won't take too long.
No, it's okay.
Friday's coming up.
He's on tape. I was explaining. It's like we don't talk about what just happened. It's all fine. It's all good unless the Bills hold a news conference right at the start of the show today. So we're going to play it, but I felt like I had to explain.
I got to be honest.
Yeah, good.
They did not help themselves at all with this press conference.
No.
They should have just kind of kept everything under wraps for a couple more days if this was what they were going to come out with. Because I don't know. I thought that it would be very hard for them to dig themselves out of it, but it's still the Bills, and they've still been very successful. I have rarely seen an organization still build up as much goodwill as they have to, in very short order, make everybody question it. Like the Bills are right now. I'm going to go back and listen to it again, and we'll talk about it on Friday. But it's like I don't like. Have you talked at all about it? I know it's just happened, but
well, yeah. I mean, I aired it, and then it ended, and then I talked about it for 15 minutes, and then I took a break, and then as I was starting the new segment, you called.
Keon's on the team still.
Yeah, that was weird. That whole Keon thing was super weird.
Yeah, and it really. Man, this is a big insight into the Sabres, isn't it? Goodness. It feels like this guy gets involved and there is nothing good coming from it, and he has absolutely no way to explain any of it.
Well,
and I'm talking about Pagula.
Of course. Well, what I did with the
him
press
saying, let me just put this out here, that Keon wasn't really Brandon Beane's pick, except for there's video online from the combine of him bragging about how Brandon Beane hey, this is awesome that he ran a slower 40 time because it's going to be easier for us to get him. Yeah. Okay, dude. Yeah, this guy sucks, but he didn't want him. Okay. All right. But the 1 year that he wasn't there and McDermott was, they ended up with like 4 All-Pros on the team. But Brandon Beane had nothing to do with Keon Coleman. It just feels more like more passing the buck, more passing the blame, and it's really astonishing. And it has to be, for me. I know that Josh Allen is still the draw, and I know that there's only 30 jobs out there, and whatever. But if I'm any type of serious coaching candidate, I have to see this and really think about what's going on there, because this makes me really think over what's going on.
Well, the thing I kept putting on the screen, because I thought of just going truth detector and running the thing live and just interrupting it, but I wanted to hear all of it, and I didn't think it made sense. I hit the buzzer a couple times. There were a couple things that happened, but what I decided to do was just start typing things on the screen, and the main one I just kept putting back up every time Terry was on was, once a year we are reminded why we only hear from Terry Pagula once a year. Every time he goes to the podium, I feel less confident in the Bills and the Sabres. Like, it's weird. And I am more pro Beane than I think anyone else right now. It seems like the overwhelming sentiment is the wrong guy is gone. And I'll listen, I'm not arguing it, but I still think Beane is a good dude to run the organization. I like the way he carries himself. I don't know behind the scenes what he's like to deal with, any of that stuff, but him representing the team, I don't think he steps in it when he goes on a national show and does an interview, or even at the podium. He doesn't tend to screw it up. But there were moments today where Beane is answering the question, and Pagula's like, let me jump in. It's like, dude, don't jump in. Like,
please don't do that.
I assure you that whatever you're about to say is not going to help. Beane's good at this talking part, and you're screwing it up. So he'll jump in. Like, that whole thing, Beane was like, no, I drafted Keon Coleman. I don't want any mistake here. Yeah, there was input from coaches and, whatever. There are disagreements about things, but that's me. I took him. But you're right. He's 2 years in. He's on the team, and we're talking about him. Like I said, it's not like he's Aaron Hernandez. Like, it's just a guy who hasn't been super productive. And it used to be that and he wasn't even a first-round pick. And when it used to be that a receiver would come in and have to learn the offense, and it wasn't until year 3. I remember that a lot with Eric Moles, where it was 2 years in. It's like, well, no, it's usually the third year where a guy really has been around the offense and he steps up. So, give your own dude the benefit of the doubt and stop talking about him like he's the reason that Sean McDermott got fired. Like, that was crazy to me. Here are the things I wrote down that I didn't believe, and let's see how you react to them. Not a power struggle. They stress that quite a bit. Clearly, one guy's in, one guy's out. There was something. You fired a guy and promoted the other one. So something happened there. And we've heard rumblings of it leading up to now. So to pretend that we didn't is insane. And then the repeated talking point of I decided this myself after the Denver game is insane. It's completely implausible. And he kept stressing it as if the thing he was told. It reminded me of, remember Miss South Carolina, where she kept saying as if in the quote or on the stage. She was being interviewed, and she was like, as if, and everybody laughed at her. But I know for sure she was being trained to stop saying like so much. So they told her to say as if. I feel like Terry Pegula was like, all right, you're going out on stage. What do we know? I decided this after the Denver game. Okay, let's try it again. Terry, was this in the works for a long time? I decided this after the Denver game. And it was so stressed that it seemed fake to me. And also,
we talked about.
I've got one more. Hold on, let me give you one more, and then you can. These are the things that I took away that just seemed not plausible to me. Somebody asked, "Are you going to hire a GM to Beane?" And he said, "No, I'm the GM." And then he went on to say how nothing has changed, despite the fact that he's been promoted. And I would have liked somebody to press on that. Like, what do you just get more money, but the responsibilities haven't changed? He's like, the structure's the same. Like, no, it isn't. They put it in a press conference that you got promoted and this guy's out. So those are all the things that rub me the wrong way. Okay, your turn.
Well, we talked about the Ravens after they got rid of Harbaugh and Biscotti, their owner, coming out being asked a similar question. And like, hey, if the field goal goes in and you guys make the playoffs, are we sitting here having this conversation? And he very honestly said, yeah, just a week later.
Right.
And then this... It's like
Pegula said, it is what it is. He was asked that question. His answer was, it is what it is, which means I'm not prepared to answer that.
Right. If what he's saying is true, it's insane. Or it's just BS. And that's where, when you get into those types of situations, that's the worst. Is you don't want, like, the only thing that people can say, you could just come out and say, I want to win a Super Bowl. And after that game, I just really thought about it, and I don't think that this is the guy to do it. He gave us a lot. He set a foundation for us, and I think we needed a change. Would anybody argue with that?
You can't argue with that. He's in charge. He gets to do that.
But
you could say that
coming
he's wrong.
out and saying, I went up to Josh in the locker room, and he was sad after the game, so I fired McDermott. That's basically what he said.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
He said Josh didn't acknowledge me.
Absolutely right. I wouldn't either, because he knew what a moron you are. I just, it's going to be interesting. Let me tell you what, they are going to get slammed in the media today.
Oh yeah,
slammed, and because this is all going on top of the fact that they really didn't send McDermott off the way that he should have. There was not a power struggle. Says man standing over other man that's dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I sure
There was not a power struggle, says OJ. Like, no, there was. There's just, it's over
now.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no longer a power struggle because one guy took the fall. And I don't know, just, talking from people in the organization, it always felt to me like behind the scenes, Sean McDermott was a real person and that Brandon Beane was Mr. Slick. And I think in this situation, Beane knew how to play his cards more than McDermott did behind the scenes. And then on top of that, McDermott gets the bad luck of the 50-50 call with Brandon Cooks going against him, so he has to get fired. I just, they are going to get hammered. I'll say this: they came out and did an admirable job today. I mean, like, the whole thing is just Sean McDermott should have been sent off with saying, we didn't get there. That's an organizational failure, and we need to try something different because this isn't working both for him and for us. And he will always be a Buffalo Bill. He will always be a treasured member of this community. We love him, and it sucks that this has to happen. But we are going to go on and make a decision to go somewhere else. But we know and understand the place in this organization's history that he has and will always have. He will always be a member of this family. He will always be welcomed back, no matter what color he wears. He needs to be respected and understood for the place that he really has in this organization. 20 years, this place was wandering in the wilderness. And McDermott came and gave us a home and gave us a place and to build from. A foundation, a leadership that, while unfortunately didn't get us to the promised land, still created us as a viable organization for the first time in 2 decades. Something that was relevant again in the NFL. That's not just all Josh. Sean McDermott was the nerd in the corner office that kept the wheels greased, while Brandon Beane was the CEO that went out and got credited for being some type of genius. And now we're going to see what happens when credited genius gets to take over. And, the guy in the corner office who was doing all the actual nitty-gritty work, the day-to-day, isn't there anymore. I just know from any job that we've ever been in, whenever that situation has happened, it's usually not good. It's usually not good. So it's going to be very interesting to see the fact that Sean McDermott should have been, I don't think he should have been fired, but you can make a very good case that he should have been fired. And I understand that, and to move on and to try to do something different. But the way that he was let go of is completely, really indefensible. And then they went out there and they made the indefensible even more indefensible by acting like they did. I don't get it. If they're getting coaching from the PR department that's put out Admiral,
yeah, that
could be a big problem.
Yeah,
that could be a big problem as well. That they should be embarrassed by how this week has been handled.
Well, I've got to say, you just gave an off-the-cuff speech that beat the crap out of anything that they said with regard to sending off McDermott, and that was just you making it up off the top of your head. I will say they have a reference point for this. Lindy Ruff was fired in what was essentially a mercy killing, however long ago that was, and you could tell Terry Pegula didn't want to do it, but had nowhere else to turn. And in that moment, it felt genuine. It was like, I love Lindy Ruff. I came here. This is going to be awesome, and it's not working, and I have to change something, and I've changed all the other stuff, so now I got to change this guy. And obviously, he still held him in high regard. He's back as the head coach of the team, and they're in a playoff spot as of right now. But that one to me felt genuine. It was just like, love this guy. I don't think it's his fault, but what else can I do here? And you could have taken that speech, plugged it into AI, had it change the name a little bit, change the situation a little bit, give the exact same speech. Things have gone well. Love this guy. He is a fixture. He lives here. He's going on the Wall of Fame. Like, this guy
right. He will be welcomed back.
This guy is
always
important.
A member of this family.
But they had that speech already written. They used it. You could have reused it. If they lost it, I apologize. That stinks for them. But that sentiment was the right one, and everything that happened today just felt like people lying to me.
Right, and even with the background stories coming out, I'm not sure if it was Tim Graham or who it was, basically saying that they had a late season meeting where McDermott got in there and was like, I don't think this is a championship roster. We're going to try and get it there, but this is not a championship roster. He was right, and in my life, I value truth over pride. And it feels, if that report is true, which,
Vic Carucci's not lying to us.
Right. Then I would side with truth. That means that somebody got butthurt that the decisions that they made weren't good. And instead of saying, all right, let's figure out how to retool it and what we're going to do and how can we get there, they said, this guy is going to be a danger to me professionally. And instead of valuing what he brings to the team, I'm going to try and get rid of him the first chance I get. Otherwise, it's going to get out that I put together a bad roster that he couldn't get there. And, this is the type of stuff that happens all the time in major organizations all around the world. It's the politics of it that sucks. And it's the politics like that of it that sucks to guys like Sean McDermott, who are there just trying to do a job, and they want to do the job, and they don't care about all the other stuff. But unfortunately, all the other stuff matters when there's just an owner that is, and this isn't really a knock on Pagula. He's got other stuff going on. He's got his own family. His wife is sick. I don't want to say parachuting in, but he's not there every day.
Right.
He doesn't know what's going on. He just knows that he trusted this guy, and he's going with what he is being told. And I don't think McDermott is the type of guy to play those games. He's just telling the truth. And, they didn't like what they heard. Guess who was right, by the way? McDermott was right. McDermott was right. That's not a championship roster. We talked about it right away on Monday. That defense is nowhere near the other defenses that are left in this league.
Yeah.
Is that on Sean McDermott or the fact that Joey Bosa sucks now? Like, all the draft capital that they put towards it this year, you got 1 out of 3. Everyone else is invisible. Like, is Sean McDermott the guy that said, hey, let's bring in 2 defensive linemen that won't be able to play for 6 weeks? I don't know. I don't know that. But I know that Brandon Beane is the general manager and should take some responsibility for that. And guess what? The 6 weeks, there were some losses in there. There were. And maybe that goes to them not getting the 1 seed at the end of the day. Or not winning the division because they played the Patriots early in the season. I don't know. Today was not a good day for the Bills organization, Brandon Beane. I don't think that they swayed anybody to their side. It was poorly thought out. These arguments that they should have been making should have been really easy and really crystal clear for them. And all they did was throw just a bucket of crap in the water.
If you were to even believe that this just came up when he saw sadness in the locker room after the Denver game, and that's when he decided.
Right, and that's stupid.
Well, let's just
if they're going to make that decision, that's stupid.
Well, you can't make that decision, and also you're yelling when people are they're trying to talk to Brandon Beane. You're like, that was a bad call. That should have been a catch. Like, oh, okay, so the team should have advanced to the next round of the playoffs. You fired your coach anyway. Like, that part, none of it fit together. So, like, even if you believe, and I don't, but if you do, that it was the Denver game, it was the walking around the locker room, and you're like, something's got to change. Is it possible that you just go with, well, if I fire my GM, if I fire both of them, I got to start over. I don't think that makes sense. So I got to choose one of these two. If I fire my GM, I don't know I don't know who my next GM is. I don't know where that even comes from. But if I fire my coach, my GM knows coaching, and I can hand it. Maybe that's the promotion. You know what? I got to pick one of you. I'm going to pick you. You be in charge of getting the other guy, and let's move on. I know something's got to change. I choose you. It could be that simple. You're never going to get that answer. But also, it's not true because there's no way it just came up after the Denver game. So I don't even know. I'm talking in circles, but it's tough, man. They were talking in circles. So how am I supposed to react?
Right. Yeah. It's frustrating. I'm not even a Bills fan. I'm just looking at it completely objectively.
Well, you're a fan of the community.
Admirably.
You're a fan of the community. You're rooting for our city.
I want them to do good. My son loves the Bills. He's
right.
100% in. And again, this should have been a very easy thing to get over. Even with all the negative stuff that's kind of come out and been swirling around, this should have been a very easy tap-in for par. Or even bogey, if you want to talk about that.
Just going for bogey.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it feels like they repeatedly took out driver on the green. I don't get it.
Right.
All they had to say was something had to change. we don't think that Sean's the guy to get us to the Super Bowl, and we want to win a Super Bowl. And for all the good that Sean did, we thought we need a change. We need something happen, and this has happened numerous times over the history of the NFL, and it sucks because we love Sean and we know what he's brought, but we needed to make a change, and we're going to make the change, and that's the reason why we decided to do it.
You know what's cool?
That's all.
Yeah.
And instead, instead it turns very quickly. It turns very quickly into hold on. He didn't really draft Keon.
Yeah.
He wanted him to, so he just did it.
Well,
So, and that begs also, hey, so Brandon Beane is just picking whoever McDermott wanted. So why would you give him the reins? That means that he doesn't know anything. He's just doing what he's told. He has no input.
Yeah.
He's just out there to logistically get point A to point B. So why does he get to stay if he's just doing what McDermott says?
And get promoted.
And then get promoted. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, I would have liked some exploration on the promotion in that news conference. And also, why hold it if you don't have a plan? I mean, if Terry Pegula's plan was to come out and go 5-2-3-2-2-2-6, what does that mean to you guys? And people are like, I don't know, crazy man. What do you everybody just sits there and stares at him. And he says it again. You don't know? Those are our seedings the last 7 years, or whatever that was. That was the plan. And to say that it was, I'm going to recite these numbers, I'm going to call it a bad call, and then I'm also going to say that I made this decision and it happened after the Denver game. And that was the whole plan. Either come out and tell the truth or come out with a compelling set of lies about how this went down. But instead, they came out and flailed. And again, Beane is better at this. If this was just Beane, I think it would have turned out a lot better than it did. But it couldn't be because Pegula has to be accountable once in a while. So I don't know. They must hate it. They must hate the day that they have to trot Pegula out to the podium on a once a year type of basis, because it's a disaster every time.
I'll also throw out there, who knows if it's true or not, and I would assume that either Vic or Skursky or Tim will find this out eventually. Him acknowledging that he did not talk to Josh Allen before making a move at coach is very interesting.
Yeah, I didn't believe it.
I don't know if that's maybe protecting his quarterback from having any of the fallout of Josh got him fired or Josh wanted him. Josh said fine to this.
Sure. Yeah, I think it is that. But again,
I think it probably is that, but you don't need to say that.
Right. Just shut up.
You know what I mean? It'd be like, Josh is going to be involved in the selection of the next quarterback or the selection of the next head coach, and we're moving forward. I made this decision. So I don't know if he was covering for Josh, that's fine. But let's just take that at face value. He changed the coach without talking to Josh? That seems dumb.
There's no way it's true. There's no way it's true. I cannot possibly believe it's true. If you're in a situation where you're talking about a committee of people that's going to select this coach, and it's Brandon Beane and some associate GMs that we don't know about, and then you add Josh in at the end, it's like, yeah, we know what this franchise is right now. We know the reason the stadium across the street is here is this dude wearing 17. And no, we're not morons. He's going to be involved in the decisions about what's happening with this team, because the last thing we need is an unhappy Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen right now looks like a guy who is going to be here for another 8 years and retire as a Bill and eventually become president of the Bills or executive of Erie County or the mayor or something. It feels like they're going to rename the city after him. That's the guy. All the stuff that's happening, that's the guy. And you're saying, yeah, I just decided on a whim after a game. I wanted to talk to Josh, but he wouldn't acknowledge me. So I decided to just fire the coach because Josh didn't look at me in the locker room. I'm supposed to believe that that's what you're doing with your multi-billion-dollar franchise. I don't. I don't. So you're lying, which, makes me wonder why you even had a news conference today. I could have just done a regular show. I had a plan with a regular show starting at 10, and now this has taken over. I had a plan for Monday's show based on the playoffs, but I had to change it because they fired McDermott. They wait 2 more days, and then they're like, here, change your show again because we're going to make this stupider. And It's impossible to feel better about the organization after listening to 48 minutes of those guys talking than you did before. It's impossible. So why'd they do it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I felt the need to just call in and vent a little bit because I hope they're strapped in. It's gonna be a real busy day for them.
Yeah.
With the amount of I don't know, interference that they're or negative reaction to what they said that they're about to face. To the point where they probably should have held this at 5:30 or 6. Honestly, if this was what it was going to be, they should have held this later and had less opportunity for
a full day
everybody
news cycle.
in the, a full day news cycle instead of serving it up on a platter in the middle of Stephen A.
Oh, God.
And all that crap. Like, ESPN is going to be feeding on this. I've already seen a number of people on Twitter from ESPN with comments like, what is this? So
cool. Super cool. All right. Well, thank you.
Right,
how does this impact your eligibility for Friday?
Oh, I'm still in.
Okay, good. Just making sure. All right. Well, we'll take bonus.
Yep.
We'll take a bonus Scott Wilson call.
Bonus coverage.
Thanks, man.
Bonus Cantos.
All right. Thanks for checking in. All right. There's Scott Wilson, their senior football correspondent, not scheduled to appear today. Bob Gaughan was scheduled to appear today, and he's about to appear today. But I will apologize again. It's the fear with pre-recording. I did a segment with Bob that was supposed to air at 11 o'clock today, and then we learned late last night that 10 o'clock was going to be the news conference. And before recording with Bob, I said, is there any chance that, like, I wasn't thinking of news conference where the whole dynamic changes of the conversation. I was just thinking, what if they hire somebody? Or what if we know who they're interviewing or something, and we decided, all right, screw it. We recorded at 3:30 yesterday afternoon. Not much has changed. Nothing has changed about the overall situation. It's just that they held this news conference that is going to dominate conversation around the Bills and this firing for days and probably weeks to come until they get a new coach. And then that'll be the new thing. But so for that reason, I'm going to apologize that there will be no recognition during this conversation of the fact that this news conference took place because we recorded it yesterday. It's still brand new. It still all applies. It just doesn't include anything about the news conference. All right, so we're going to take a break real quick and then come back with that, assuming that it works, because I had trouble. I think it'll be fine. What's going to happen, when I was testing this yesterday, I could not verify that the audio was playing as I was playing the video, because the video is going to look just like this. Well, not like this, because Scott's in this one. It'll look like a little more like this, but it'll be me and Bob. It's fine, but it's something to do with some setting where I can't tell for sure that the audio is going out. It looks like it is. There's a little monitor that does the little flashy light thing. But as soon as we start the conversation, if someone in the chat could let me know, yes, we hear you fine, that would be very helpful to me. I think it's going to work, but that's the plan. So I'm going to take a break real quick, probably one or two songs, and then I'll be back with Bob Gaughan, plausibly live, recorded yesterday, but it'll be fine. Also want to throw out there the update, Buffalo Trim. I've been texting with my new friend Isabel at Buffalo Trim, and we look like we're on for 1 p.m. Friday that I get. Yeah, okay, of course. There we go. Perfect. See you then. Of course. Friday, 1 p.m., we tame the mane with Buffalo Trim. They say, give us a try, and you won't go anywhere else. I'm going to give them a try, and I'm not going anywhere else. I already know. I'm convinced just from online. I will say I'm a little hurt by the fact they've got several different packages. I've been telling you about the Working Man, which is $29, haircut, hot lather, neck shave, and shampoo for $29. I'm getting that, but I'm upgrading. I'm going all the way up to, I thought it was the Executive. I felt good about the Executive, but I have to go one beyond because of all this. See this color? All this white that I don't want anymore. I don't want it gone. I want it blended. And and I need all this trimmed, and I'm getting the hot shave and all this stuff. I had to go beyond the executive up to the Silver Fox. The Silver Fox. They're calling me the Silver. That was my request. Like, hey, Buffalo Trim, can I get the Silver Fox? Damn it! But I'm gonna look good, just not till Monday. I'm gonna get you won't see me. There'll be a big reveal on Monday, the day before the debut of Brain Vault at the Caz. Go get tickets. thecazbuffalo.com. I think we're up to 19 tickets sold. They just started pushing it yesterday through the Caz social media. And I think once we've got video evidence of me transforming from this slob into like slick game show host guy, I think that'll probably sell some tickets too. But I'm looking forward to it. I've heard from a bunch of people who are planning to go and haven't bought tickets yet. And I get that. I wouldn't buy tickets until the day of if I were me. But just for my own like sanity, the sooner you buy tickets, the better I feel about, making this thing rock the first day. I'm telling you right now, we're doing the same show, regardless of if we have a packed house or we've got 30 people there. It'll be the same show. It's episode 1. It's version 1, but it's the same presentation. It's just going to be more fun and more energetic, I think, if there are more people in the building. And I'm not asking you to lay out $15 every week to come to this thing, but I am asking you as a show of support for a show I've been giving you for free for 248 episodes so far. If you wouldn't mind buying a ticket and coming on out, even if you don't have people to go with, just buy one. You can come by yourself and have fun. You'll meet other like-minded people who feel like doing something cool and fun and new and interesting on a Tuesday night, even if you're not super close to South Buffalo. Make the trip. It's a venue. It's the venue is a destination. And that's what really got this thing started, is me seeing this place and going, yeah, I can work with this. And the first one is Tuesday. So please, thecazbuffalo.com. Go buy tickets. And, what I was going to say is I don't expect you to come every week. But come this week. Help make or next week, I should say. Help make the first one into as big an event as it can be. And that will provide the energy as we move forward. And then take a week off or take 2 weeks off and watch as it develops into even more. Because I got it in my head exactly what this thing's going to be. But there's no way it's going to be exactly what I've got in my head, which is exciting. And I think tomorrow I will announce the guests that will be present. Don't wait for that. Just buy the ticket. It's coming, though. I want to confirm with everybody before I say their names live on I can say one. There's one that I know 100% for sure is going to be there. And this will be no surprise to anyone that Jeremy White will be joining me for the first episode of Brain Vault. Jared and I have worked together forever. We're in each other's weddings. Jared's my boy. He will be with me. I need to confirm the other two people that I've gotten soft. I don't even want to say soft yeses. I've gotten yeses, but as we're inside a week, I want to confirm before I announce their names. But Jeremy White will be a part of the panel for the first episode of Brain Vault. Or the first episode's probably not the right word because it's not yet a TV show. I'm picturing the whole thing as a YouTube show. The first one will not be. We'll be recording it, and then we'll be working with the first episode to create promotional materials to eventually turn it into a full-on live video show. But for now, you got to be there in person. You want to see the first one? You want to be a part of it? thecazbuffalo.com. Tickets are $15. There are also $20 tickets. You don't have to buy those. Buy the $15 tickets. And let's fill up the room and make it fun. All right, timeout. A little bit of music, followed by Bob Gone. My conversation with Bob Gone that took place yesterday. But I wore the same hat and shirt, so it would look the same. I talked through the whole thing as if it was live. It just won't mention the news conference that just happened, which would be the whole thing we would talk about if he was on live. So I feel the need to apologize. Apologize is a strong word. I'll be right back with Bob Gone. Stay tuned. Oh, come on. Really? We're going... It's... All right, well. The new thing here is because I'm not showing the little Spotify box, now I can play my own music while Spotify plays muted. I'm going to eventually, probably within the next week, get the Spotify Premium so the commercials go away. because I'm going to be using this at the live show also. And we can't have Spotify commercials just jumping in, interrupting the game plan. I've got music curated. I can't wait. I cannot wait for this. The lights, the excitement, the green room, the spiral staircase, the guests, the fun. That's all coming Tuesday. I've got people from out of town talking about how they want to come in for this. Eventually. Plan a Buffalo vacation around Tuesday. Doesn't have to be this one, but those of you local that might, that you're considering doing this, don't wait. Come out for the first one. Okay, so now the Spotify commercials are over. What happened? My song went away. Oh boy. Oh, this is supposed to. All right, whatever. Unmute.
The way my kids date now, it's so simple. They go on an app, whether it's Grindr or whatever, they swipe right, swipe left, and they get the date automatically.
Let's check in with Writer Radio's
Living legend.
Bob Gone.
All right, yesterday I had Paul Peck on, and he's our senior bowling correspondent. We didn't talk about bowling at all, and I don't think we're going to talk about bowling at all today with Bob Gone either. He's a living legend, but, man, if we just had the games to talk about, if we just had 4 playoff football games and a national championship game to talk about, we'd be all set. But those can take a backseat to the news that came out a couple days ago with Sean McDermott out as head coach of the Buffalo Bills. I'll just ask you your initial thoughts before I lead you in any direction. What's up?
Well, I think my initial thoughts are that you and I nailed it back in April, from my memory, and correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm not going to correct this. Whatever it is, whatever you say, I believe you. I'm with you.
Well, but this is legit. I mean, back in April, after the draft, I said that I thought that there was a break between Beane and McDermott, and I thought Beane essentially said, and I said, his actions speak so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. He gave him 6 out of the first 7 draft picks. He gave him everything in free agency. He basically said, I'm giving you everything I possibly can. We better not lose another game 33-30. And that's what they had done the first 5 years. And then you said that you thought when he was talking to Jeremy, he was actually had just come from talking to McDermott, and that message that he had given to the listeners was actually somewhat of a message that he had just given to McDermott.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that? That was the
100%.
legitimate conversation that we had back in April. To be honest with everybody, we nailed it. That's exactly what I think happened here, because you could argue for sure, and I think a lot of people are arguing, that McDermott had a better year. This last year, McDermott had a better year than Beane. And that's what I think a lot of people are hanging their hat on, saying, why did we get rid of McDermott instead of Beane? Where I think that this was more of a culmination of the last 6 or 7 years. And I think that back in April, Terry Pagula and Brendan Beane said, and they agreed upon, if this goes haywire, if this goes the same way it's gone the last 5 years, and it goes the same way for 6 years, and the Bills lose a playoff game 30-27, 33-30, then we're done with it. And that's exactly what happened. So I really think that this decision was made months ago, predicated on that the outcome was what it turned out to be.
Sure, I would say yes. That's exactly the way that I read the phone call to Jeremy the day after the draft. He wasn't mad at Jer. He was mad at people within the building. And who are the people within the building? Well, the people are the head coach. And I think that's what we saw a rift. That was the first sign, really, of any sort of anything that they weren't in lockstep over the course of 8 or 9 years here together. And then we saw a couple more times, with the Darius Slay thing, and McDermott I'd like to have Jamarcus Ingram right now, and that's clearly a shot at Beane. So there was sort of this passive-aggressive kind of conversation going back and forth. I think that when the Patriots won the division, which was only in the, second to last week of the season, once they won the division, things became pretty ugly. And it starts there. Well, it doesn't start there, but, it continues there. And then it does get to, I think that, I don't think he got fired because of how they lost. I think he got fired because they lost. Like, it was decided. I think going back a week and a half ago when John Harbaugh became available, and there was some, like, he's going to wait through the weekend before he starts doing interviews. I think that was about Buffalo. There was some talk that maybe it was Buffalo, maybe it was Green Bay. Well, clearly it was not Green Bay because LaFleur's still there. Buffalo, McDermott didn't get fired on Monday because the Bills lost on Saturday. McDermott got fired on Monday because the Bills won last week against Jacksonville. He would have been gone then. He would have been gone this past week. And if they went to Denver and they lost in Denver, I think there's a good chance he would have been gone then too. So, I mean, there's no chance. Like, damn it, after this game and this loss, we have quickly decided that it's time to move on from the guy with the highest winning percentage in history as a Bills coach. He would have passed Marv Levy in about a year and a half, more than likely, if he stuck around for total wins. He's got the same number of playoff appearances. He's got one fewer division title than Marv Levy. And this is a guy who's going to be coaching for a long time. But this decision certainly was not about this past weekend. It's been in the making for a long time. And to a certain extent, I get it. I feel for him. I think he was a very key component in turning this team from just mediocrity to class of the NFL on a year in and year out basis. But if I'm going to go into next year assuming something's going to be different, but come back with the same coach and the same quarterback, I think that's kind of nuts. The time is ticking, and this is the first time I felt like time really is ticking on Josh Allen and his career. And I think he's going to be here for a while, and I don't think he's peaked necessarily yet, but he's in his prime, and it only lasts so long. And whether it's your fault or it's not your fault, Sean McDermott, the flavor has to change around here. Something's got to give, and it ain't going to be Josh Allen. So I don't know. I see that's why it happened.
And I can get the people that say that Josh Allen was not perfect against Denver,
right?
And I also get that there was at least 6 points. Allen at the end of the first half, and then the fumble that they gave, so he didn't really give up 33 points. He gave up 27 points. I get it. But here's the deal, Brad. There's 4 minutes to go in the game, and you got a 4-point lead. Now, should have Allen not bounced the ball to Shakir? Yes. Should it have been a 2-score game? It wasn't. But still, you're going up against you this year. This year's different to me because you're not going up against Patrick Mahomes. You're not going up against Joe Burrow. For all of those years, I would honestly say that maybe the Bills had just as good of a team. There were a couple of years I thought they were maybe slightly better than Kansas City, but there's nobody in this world that could say, oh, my God, the Bills were so much better than Kansas City or so much better than Cincinnati. But you know what? I can say that about Denver. I really think that this team was better than Denver. They shouldn't have lost that game. And the proof of that is they should have won the game in spite of giving up, at one point. Well, the point I'm talking about is the turnovers are 4-1 at this point. Again, all that being said, it's 27-23. There's only 4 minutes to go, and you got to stop Bo Nix for your job, essentially, right? You're not stopping Patrick Mahomes. You're not stopping Joe Burrow. I need one stop from you, and I need you to stop Bo Nix one time, and can't do it. And they go down, and they score, and fortunately they scored quick enough, so there was still a minute left and 3 timeouts. But I really think in microcosm, that was the job. And I think he knew it. Don't you think when he goes to that press conference, he says, damn it, I'm sticking up for Buffalo. Damn, he knows he's pleading for, in hindsight, we look back at that, he was pleading for his job there.
That, and then the phone call to Jay Skursky after thinking about it even longer from the plane. And I had Jay on the show a couple days ago, and the point was to have him on. I was having him on Monday. I was like, this guy's pretty popular right now. He's getting phone calls from the head coach. He's in national news about it, and the plan was to have him on at 10:30 to talk about that. And then I woke up to McDermott being fired, and Jay was cool enough to still come on. But we never even got into what a weird situation that was. Well, no, we did. I mentioned it, but we didn't dwell on it. That just sounded like the pleas of a desperate man. And I'll take it a step further. The Josh Allen press conference that I still haven't watched. I don't want to watch Josh Allen cry. I want him to be a superhero. I'm going to leave that alone. But, by all accounts, it's not just, he was emotional and there were tears in his eyes. It sounds like he was just bawling. And I wonder how much he knew that, hey, I didn't perform today and I just cost Sean McDermott his job because, eventually it was going to go away anyway. But I have a feeling he knew it too. It seems that there was some knowledge within that building from the way that these guys reacted after the game.
Well, you would think that with Josh Allen, they're not making this decision without letting him at least know first and kind of feel him out for it.
Yeah.
Just as the new coach, there's no way that they're not going to at least run it past him,
right?
With because he is the whole franchise, and it is irony. And I guess I could say the same thing about Kevin Adams, is that Kevin Adams really didn't do a bad job this past year. If you look at the off-season moves of Kevin Adams this past year, if you look at, and I'll make the correlation, if you look at the way McDermott played this defense this year, it was the first year I liked what he did by putting 6 guys on the line and guess who's coming, guess who's not coming. The Bills had not done that previous years. I can honestly say that I think that in Kevin Adams' case with the Sabres, he made some really good moves in the offseason. But it wasn't about just 1 year with Kevin Adams. And I'd say the same thing about McDermott. It wasn't about just this last year. It was the culmination of what has been going on for the last 6 or 7 years. And maybe there was a power struggle with Beane and McDermott. And probably, Beane won. And Beane, gave examples, and he must have, and I'm just hypothetically, but I'm sure he went to Terry Pegula and said, listen, I've been getting him his guys, and it's not working. And and this might be an obscure example, but I think he would have given it to Terry Pegula. Puna Ford came to Buffalo after having a productive year with Seattle. He had 3 sacks and about 40 tackles. After he leaves Buffalo, he goes to the Chargers, and he's now on the Rams. In the 2 years after he left Buffalo, he had 3 sacks. Again, this is 3 sacks from a defensive tackle, which is pretty good, which is not bad. 3 sacks with the Chargers, 3 sacks this year with the Rams. He was a healthy scratch for the Bills. He didn't play he literally played less than half the games. I think examples like this is what Beane went to Pegula and said, hey, here's an example of a guy that I liked that McDermott didn't like. So he didn't play him, but he has been productive for 3 other teams, around, and I had to get him his guys, and his guys aren't working. His defense is not working. I think he needs more, and I would totally agree with that. So I am not like everybody else. I am on board with this move. And I also am not on board with cleaning house, and the reason for that is I don't trust Terry Pegula. Do you trust if they cleaned house and then you were starting from scratch, and I have to trust Terry Pegula? This goes back to, I think, one of our points. Just because you're a billionaire doesn't mean you're smart at running a football team or a hockey team, right? It has nothing to do. You are great at geology and finding out where gas is in mountains and fracking and stuff like that. That doesn't mean you know how to run a football or a hockey team. So I would have had zero confidence if they cleaned house. So I think they did. If they were going to make a move, I think they had to choose between McDermott and Beane. And unlike, I think, the majority of Bills fans, I'm fine with it. I'm happy that they chose Beane over McDermott.
Well, yeah, because this is the same guy that got talked into Rex Ryan on a yacht at some point, right? I don't want him free to his own devices making all the choices. And also, this is a team. We say it all the time, and let's not pretend it isn't true just because the coach is gone. If you've got Josh Allen, you've got a chance. If you've got Josh Allen, if you start over right now, literally, he's the only guy on the roster, that team's going to be at least all right next year. Assuming you make it up of competent football players. But if you have just an average player everywhere else on this team and Josh Allen, you're in competition for a playoff spot, and then you're in competition for every game you're playing. So it didn't get destroyed here. That's the guy. So how do we maximize that guy? You have to, if you're Terry Pegula, you have to win a Super Bowl while Josh Allen is in his prime. That has to be accomplished. There's never been a better opportunity, and that includes the 90s. They never had a guy like this that's at the top of his game. And if you surround him with even close to the right talent, you've got a shot every year. And they've had a shot every year, which is why I think a lot of people are frustrated. Like, they lose that game to Denver, and we didn't get to officiating yet. But let's just go back to the turnovers. What's the final score of that game, Bob, if James Cook doesn't fumble and they go up 14-3?
Right. You're absolutely right.
They win by 17 points in that game. They win that thing going away. And then, a million little things, and it's always the case with a Josh Allen-led team. Either they're going to beat you or you're going to get 14 breaks, all of which go your way, and if any one of them didn't, you'd lose. And that's how you lose a 3-point game in overtime when Josh Allen did get the ball after you stopped them once and gave them the ball. For all of this stuff happened, and you still wound up on the wrong side of it. It's going to be the same way next year, regardless of who's on this team. So let's try something new to spark it, because a Super Bowl needs to be won while that guy is in uniform.
Well, let me just, and I'm the only person that has even talked about this. I think he screwed up by not taking the ball first after an overtime for this reason. And I could go back to both overtime games. The reason you wouldn't do it is you wouldn't have the foresight to realize it might go to a third possession.
Right.
Because if it goes to a third possession, then you wanted the ball first, so you have, because then it's just winner, first team wins, right? And in both cases, and maybe it's that he didn't have any confidence in his defense. And the reason you wouldn't take the ball first is because you want to give them the ball, you have no confidence in your defense, and you want to, at best, hold them to a field goal. You know you need a touchdown to win. If they score a touchdown, you want to come down and score two. Go score a touchdown and then go for two. I mean, that's really the thinking behind giving them the ball first. The thinking isn't, what happens if it gets to a third? What happens if we actually stop them? Right? If we actually stop them and then they stop us, oh, my God, then it's a third possession. Then it's next team scores, wins. So I actually think in both cases, if you think about it, both teams that won chose to kick off, and in both cases, they didn't have the foresight to realize it went to a third possession in both overtimes, and both teams lost because of it.
Yeah, and it's a new rule. I don't know if it was new last year, or it was since the 13 seconds happened. But it's a new thing to think about. It now there's some data on it. It's not your job or my job in advance to think about it, but it is the job of a coaching staff to think about it. And I don't know that worked its way into here's why you're fired. But the other part of it too is you just drove down. And their defense was on the field. I know it was just a 55-second drive. It's 55-second field goal drive. But let's say you do mount a 5-minute drive and milk the clock to tie a game and force it to overtime. And now I get a choice of the rested offense and my rested defense coming out, or my offense ready to go against your defense that I just ran through. Let's try that again. And you can seal the deal by scoring and then stopping them. There is a natural inclination, I think, as just sports fans to go, well, we're playing innings now. I'd rather bat last. And that works in college football because it's isolated. You do it one way and then you flip the other way. But, yeah, there's a lot to think about, and I think it's new. And maybe by next year's playoffs, maybe by next week, by this coming weekend, the jury is in on, oh, no, it's right to take the ball to start overtime. But it's so new that I don't fault them necessarily, although, I say I don't fault them because I didn't think of it because I thought I'd rather kick too. But in retrospect, with a little bit more information and a little bit more thought about it, I'm on your side.
But the reason you decided to kick and I decided to kick is we had no confidence in the defense. I would hope that Sean McDermott had confidence in his own defense. That's why I would kick, right? Because he wanted to kick because, all right, well, at least I know they're going to score, is what I thought. I know they're going to score. It's just a matter of can you hold them to three, and then at least we know, and then at least we know what we got to beat, and that was it. That was it. So I would hope that he didn't have the same reasoning that I had, which is I have zero confidence. I mean, anyway, it just. His defense wasn't working for me, and the reason it didn't work for me is because I thought he had to have his defensive tackles were too light, and when you have light defensive tackles, and then you have light linebackers, and then you have to have defensive ends that are stout because against the run like a Greg Rousseau, but then you don't have great pass rushers with the great stout run defenders here. Again, you're not stopping the run. You never stopped the run effectively, and more importantly is for again the sixth straight year. The defensive line let them down again. The pass rush wasn't there. And again, it was Bo frigging Nix. It was not Patrick Mahomes that beat you this time. He's not going down in the same category. He put 33 points up against you. Come on. I'm just, all of the stats, 33 points over 6 years, that was the average. 12 points in 6 games, an average of 2 punts a game. It's all there. I just didn't want to see it. If they didn't fire him, I would have asked the question, how many years is enough for you? And it's funny because for the majority of, I guess, Bills fans, 6 years was not enough, Brad. What, would 7 years been enough? Would 8 years been enough? How many years was it going to take to continue to lose games 33-30 in the playoffs before somebody said, you know what, I think we got to try something different? And I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to go for an offensive coach, and that's what they probably should do.
Do you have any sort of
Yes, I have two. Well, without a doubt.
Okay. Well,
yes, I'll give you my.
Hold on.
I'll give you my. Go ahead.
I wanted to know first if you started already a bit with offense. I was going to ask if you have a coaching type you're looking for, and then I was going to ask for specifics, and of course you're ready with both.
Here's why you need an offensive coach, because you don't want to switch to the point of you got Josh Allen for what, 8, 9 more years. Ideally, you pick the right offensive coach, and that's the guy that is going to be, with you. What happens when you go with a defensive coach? Well, let's just look at this year. I think that there is one name that the Bills fans don't want, and that's Joe Brady. But because Joe Brady's with Josh Allen, he's getting interviewed for coaching jobs, right? Because you're with Josh Allen, and when you're with Josh Allen, you have a top 5 offense. So any offensive coordinator, and you're constantly changing the offensive coordinators, right? If you go with the defensive guy, because Josh Allen is producing on the offensive side. So for stability-wise in Josh Allen, I want the offense. Does this make sense? I want the offensive coach because if I have to keep on replacing people, I want it to be the defensive coach. I don't want it to be the offensive coach. I want a situation similar to what Kansas City has. A younger guy that Josh Allen for the next 8 years can be with. Hopefully they're successful. The two names that I like that have experience with Josh Allen would be Dable and Davis Webb. If you could, Webb might be getting a head coaching job. It might be a little early for him. I guess my ideal, if you said, shoot for the stars, I would say Dable is the head coach, Davis Webb is the offensive coordinator, and my defensive coordinator is Jim Schwartz. If I had to, would you sign up for that today if I could deliver that to you?
There's a part of me that thinks someone should be the head coach above Dable who returns as the offensive coordinator. That's the only thing, because I think what we know of him from his experience as a head coach in New York is that it's a little loosey-goosey and a little Rex Ryan-ish. I mean, I like the guy. We loved him here, of course, and I've been rooting for him the whole time. But there's a part of me that's like, yeah, maybe head coach isn't the right spot for him, but I love him as a coordinator. So, but is that possible? And that even goes back to the Brady thing. Let's say Brady goes up and he's the head coach. Maybe he's really good at managing things. To me, there's just such a difference between the two jobs of coordinator, you're running an offense, and like CEO of a team. I talked to Paul Peck yesterday. I said, who's the best hire we've ever seen here in Western New York? And it was, kind of a leading question. And I said, and now he coaches in Kansas. But when UB needed a coach, they looked to a guy who had coaching experience, but also running a program experience. And yeah, it was at a different level, but they won constantly. And I said at the time, they might have just hired the best coach in America. There's a chance of it. You wouldn't get that if you were hiring a retread or you're hiring somebody who's just been a coordinator and is ready to take the next step. You don't, of course there's a chance. But there was like really high hope there. So I don't know. I do like Dable. Of course I like Dable.
I like Davis Webb. I really want. If you had to choose between the two, he was again the quarterback with Josh, right? He's supposed to go as the quarterback's coach with the Giants with Dable, but then they have an injury, so he winds up actually playing for the Giants because it's more money than to be a player than a coach.
Right.
And now he's the quarterback coach and passing game coordinator for Denver. So he's an up and coming coach. Now you could argue that maybe he's too young, it's a year too early, but I'm telling you that guy is going to be a coach. Everybody that has been around him says this guy's got it. So
he was on the practice squad here. He was on the practice squad here talking about how his goal was to be a coach. Thinking back, whatever it was, 5 years ago.
So again, the question is, do you want some connection to Josh? If you don't, then I'm also fine with Kubiak. You might have to wait for him because I think Seattle's going to win the Super Bowl, or they got a really good chance, right? So do you want to wait? And I'd be fine if he's the right guy. Then, but I think it's got to be the offensive. It's got to be the offensive guy, and hopefully you're picking the right guy that is going to be here for the next 8 years.
All right. Anything else on the rest of the coaching stuff that's going around? You look a couple weeks ago, the longest tenured coaches in the NFL were Tomlin, Reed, Harbaugh, McDermott. Well, Reed's still there. The others are gone. Like, this is a real... They talk about coaching carousel. That's a phrase that always gets thrown around. It's never felt more like a carousel than this year, where I think there are going to be guys going directly from a head coaching job to a head coaching job. I'd be surprised if Sean McDermott's not a head coach of one of these teams that still have an opening. We're sitting at, 6 at last check. It would not shock me if he's one of those guys. And Stefanski's already gone from Cleveland to Atlanta, and Harbaugh's already gone from Baltimore to the Giants. And Robert Saleh, I know he wasn't a head coach just now, but he was a Jets coach 10 seconds ago. Probably, maybe still should be. I don't know that Aaron Glenn should be. I'm surprised he is still intact. But there is no shortage. That's another reason that dropping McDermott at this time made sense. With 10 different, you're the 10th, different coaching staff being in flux, there's a lot of talent out there of guys that normally have jobs. And you're not just going to fill a head coaching spot. You're going to get a head coach, and you're going to get you got to fill your whole staff. And I would assume if McDermott goes somewhere, then a bunch of guys who are currently retained by the Bills are going to be on their way there, and that's happening with, I'm sure, Harbaugh people and Hafley people and Stefanski people and Saleh people. Like, it's chaotic to have 10 jobs open while the playoffs are still going on.
Right. The one mistake I think you can't make is this mistake that Aaron Glenn made with the Jets, and that is he was a defensive guy, and then he brought in Steve Wilkes. He brought in a guy that didn't run the same defense that he ran. So I think whoever you pick, if it is an offensive guy, then you pretty much, that's that guy's off. I want to run that guy's offense. If you bring somebody else in to help him run his offense, but he's got to run the same offense, whether it's Dable or whether it's Kubiak, whatever. He is the pseudo offensive coordinator. Then in the interview process, your question is, and the biggest question is, who are you getting to run the defense, and what type of defense? Who are the names that you have, down there? And again, the name that would be on the top of my list, because I do like him, is Jim Schwartz. There are probably other guys. There are other defense coordinators, of course, I like out there, but that's the one that I know is on the market that I do like. But you certainly would have to say that's your first question to every candidate you interview: is if you are interviewing a defensive guy, who's your offensive coordinator? If you're an offensive guy, who's your defensive coordinator? That's got to be the first question I think that Beane would ask.
All right. I'll let you go anywhere you want. I mean, this is our weekly conversation, but it gets dominated when the Bills fire their coach. So whatever you'd like to do. There's a lot going on.
Well, let's make the correlation to Indiana winning the championship. I think that everybody, thinks about talent, and talent is the most important thing. I would argue coaching is more important. Look at what Indiana did. The national champions for a 10-year period before Indiana had an average, Brad, of 52 4-stars or 5-stars. He had 8. Curt Cignetti had 8, but he had his guys. He had his team. He's a damn good coach, and I think that that the best coach won in Indiana last night, and he made some really gutty calls. That gutty call on 4th down to go for it and not kick the field goal and not go up by 6, because if you go up by 6, you're probably going to lose by 1. And when he does it, he had been saving, and this is kind of like what a Spagnuolo would do. Remember, Spagnuolo saved this one call for the blitz against Josh Allen last year. He hadn't played it all year. That's exactly what they did in that run with Mendoza. They hadn't run it all year. They blocked it differently. He had been saving that for the right moment. That's great coaching, Brad. I'm sorry, I got to hand it to Indiana. This is a guy that won. They won 3 games before he got there. They've only lost 2 games in 2 years. Yeah. Oh, hey, I'm just making the correlation. Coaching's more important than I think even talent.
I think Curt Cignetti is the sportsman of the year. Like, I don't know if they still do that sort of thing with SI, and I know it has taken into January, so it wouldn't work. But of the previous seasons that we've seen of every sport, I think the best story is Cignetti and what he did in Indiana.
The other great thing is he doesn't seem like he seems like he's an old school guy. He's 62. He seems like he's a hard ass.
Oh, yeah.
He is not a lovey-dovey coach, right? He is an old school coach, and that's the other reason I like it. That still does work, when you hold people to a high standard, and you don't have to just pamper them and burp them
and be their friend. You don't have to be their friend.
You don't have to. You can. It's still okay to be the old school hard ass. That still, I think, has a place, even though I think most people think it's gone. It's still alive and well in Indiana.
My favorite thing is watching the game, and I talked about this yesterday, but I can say it again, that I've never seen the dude smile, ever. And they won, and he smiled, and 4 seconds later, he got hit with Gatorade. I was like, well, that's over. He brought it back. He was okay, but I thought that might be it. That might be the 4-second window he had to be happy. Now he's wet and pissed. Whatever.
And if I'm Miami, I would say that what cost me the game was a safe blocked punt for the touchdown. Indiana wasn't even trying to block that punt. They didn't even go after it. I don't know what the punter was thinking. It's like, oh, there's an Indiana player. Let me run towards him,
Yeah.
And that was just mind-boggling. But there's in a close game, punt, touchdown. I would, if I'm a Miami fan, I am looking at my punter saying, I think you cost us this game.
Well, if you're a Miami fan and you were on TV yesterday, it was visible on your face because they looked very much alive. And then that play happened, and it was dead. It was just a look of, the I just saw a ghost type of thing. They really, I think until that moment, firmly believed that this Indiana story, it didn't seem real. Like, we're playing Indiana, we're Miami, we're back. Where are they coming from? This isn't a basketball game. Like, we've got this. And then that punt happened, and it was just shock and horror on the face of every Miami fan in the stadium that night, that night.
All right. Last Stone Cold Lock, let me give you...
what are we doing now?
I think we have to go with Seattle. I think they're the best team. I know. I mean, this is probably for the Super Bowl. Whoever wins the NFC, I think, is going to waste New England or Denver, obviously, with Stidham. But I think Seattle looks like the best team. I'm going to take the Seahawks. It's only a field goal. Let's take the Seahawks -3 to go to the Super Bowl. They seem like they're playing the best, and let's ride them to the Super Bowl.
All right. I'm going to throw this out there. I don't think Stidham is that much of a drop-off from Knicks. I don't think they should have beaten the Bills, but I think the Bills would have beaten the Patriots, and I don't think that you should just write off the Broncos in the AFC Championship game because it's Jarrett Stidham. Okay, he hasn't thrown a pass in a couple of years, but he's there for a reason. I liked him in college. I liked him at multiple schools, actually, in college. And, former Patriot. I don't know. There's something about it just seems so, they're without Bo Nix. This isn't like the Bills lost Josh Allen and now they have to play a championship game, or Mahomes, or, all the real guys. It was Bo Nix. Bo Nix is fine. Bo Nix is an acceptable quarterback, but I don't think they won that game because of Bo Nix, and I don't think they lose this game because Bo Nix isn't there. I don't know who I'm picking in it, but I just don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Stidham being in there slants this heavily in the Patriots' direction. But we'll wait and see.
No, and I'm not a fan of the Patriots. If the Bills were going to New England, the Bills would, I would think, be beating New England. And I will tell you next year already. I'll give you a future bet next year. I don't even know what it is. I'm betting the New England under when they play a first place schedule next year. Yeah. I'm all over. Just the first time it comes out, just know. Next year, when I give you one of my future bets, I'm pretty much sure it'll be the New England under, because I certainly think they took the advantage of that first place schedule. And when they don't get it next year, let's roll with that.
Sounds good. All right, Bob. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you next week.
You got it. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you. There is Bob Gone. He is our grinder. You're aware of that, right? You know why?
My kids date now. It's so simple. They go on an app, whether it's Grindr or whatever, they swipe right, swipe left, and they get the date automatically.
I think I'll explain the Grindr thing real quick, because I always play it, and I never explain it, and if you were in on the joke when it happened, you get it, and people write to me all the time, like, the Grindr thing is funny every time. Bob is right about everything he says. Everything Bob ever says, he's right about it at heart. But Bob also has a tendency once in a while to just mix up a word here or there. And Bob hasn't been on a dating app. I've never been on a dating app, but I also know that Grindr is like a joke when you're like, oh, I met, I'm on dating apps. Like, oh, is it Grindr? Because Grindr is for like dude on dude action. And Bob, in probably trying to refer to, no, I can't even think of the name, Tinder. He probably meant Tinder. He said Grindr. He's got 2 sons that are in their early 20s. He's talking about them dating. And he said, and he used it a couple times, and I wasn't going to stop him. Instead, I was going to record it and play it every week when he comes on the show. So that's what the little Grindr clip is. I'll play it again. Now that you know the context, this is Bob, I don't know, almost a year ago.
The way my kids date now, it's so simple. They go on an app, whether it's Grindr or whatever, they swipe right, swipe left, and they get the date automatically.
Automatically. All right, we'll be right back. It is episode 248 of Writer Radio. It's Wednesday. More to come. Stick around. Music, then more of this. Stay tuned.
What are you doing for lunch?
I don't know. I have a turkey sandwich.
We're gonna go around the corner. I think you should come with us. This is a great place.
Okay.
We brought you a shirt.
Will you get out of here? Will you get out of here? Will you? Now, will you go to lunch? Go to lunch. Will you go to lunch?